Hey there, this is Derek. I've been getting a lot of requests for information about what parts I used and how I did the modifications on my juiced scramblers. And I figured instead of getting back to everybody individually like I've been doing, it might be more time effective if I just put together a video, or a series of videos, I guess, covering some of the most asked about modifications that I've done to these bikes. Just as a little background, I love riding. I've always been into cycling, but when I got into electric bikes, it just changed the game for me. We'd go farther, not be sweaty and gross when I get there. It really kind of just made cycling a viable form of transportation. But I was never too keen on how the bikes looked. Not to say that they're terrible looking or that aesthetics are more important than like the functionality. But for me, I needed to have both to really dive in, especially when it's not a cheap hobby to get into. So when I found the juiced scramblers and realized how easy compared to other bikes it would be to make the kind of modifications that I needed to make them look the way I wanted to and give off the vibe I was looking for, I just had to go for it. Not once, twice. So I guess I have a bit of a problem with moderation. But anyways, let's dive in. The number one request that I get for information is the headlight. I mean, obviously, once you put a motorcycle headlight on a bike like this, it just changes the look of the whole bike, brings it kind of to another level. But I'm not an electrician. Everything is so finely tuned on this bike that I didn't want to get in and mess with things and have to start worrying about wattage of bulbs and wiring and splicing and all that. I mean, the light worked great that came on the bike. I think it's something like over 1,000 lumen, which is bright. So that wasn't an issue. So what I did, and this, as a caveat, was not my idea. There are other people on YouTube who have kind of blazed this trail, and maybe they got the idea from somewhere else too. But I found a motorcycle, like a vintage cafe cruiser headlight. I mean, it was new, wasn't original vintage, but it was in that style. The big thing I was looking for was one that I could disassemble, because what people have been doing and what I've found works really well is to take the aftermarket headlight apart and kind of gut it down so it's just the housing, and then mount the factory light that came with the juiced scrambler inside there, so you can still plug it in, control it from the computer, and access that really bright light. I've done that a couple different ways with both my bikes. I have two different headlights that I've used, and I've mounted the light inside each headlight a little differently. It's really just about finding something that will keep it secure, because you're going to be riding, hitting bumps and potholes, and you don't want that to jiggle loose in there, because then you don't have light. With the City Scrambler, I purchased an LED headlight set. That didn't have any kind of, I guess, reflector in there to magnify the light. It was just like a black piece of plastic that had an LED light or a couple of LED lights on the inside, kind of like what you see on the Juiced Scorpion, really similar to that. So how I secured the factory light in that housing is I actually used some of the black foam packaging that came with the bike itself. It's really dense, easy to work with, and I cut out kind of like a dome shape, made sure that it fit securely inside the housing, and then I cut a square out that the light itself would actually fit into, and then fished the power wire through the back of there. There's an opening. Make sure the one that you get when you decide has an opening in the back. Fished it through there and connected it. Now, there isn't a whole lot of slack on this. It kind of limits where you can position this light once it's actually on the bike. Otherwise, you risk the light becoming disconnected when you take a right-hand turn, or just inhibiting the motion of your handlebars, and you don't want that. So I ended up getting these bar mounts. They're actually for a light bar, like that you would have on top of your pickup or something, but they're adjustable. So I figured out how to mount them on my handlebars and angle them down so that the light itself is actually positioned closer to the front wheel than the top of the handlebars, which not only does it take care of the power cable problem, It also, I think, gives it a more authentic look if you are going for like a Triumph or Ducati Scrambler kind of vibe with this thing. Just as a side note, when I put the mounts on the bars, I used a spare tire tube that I had cut up because it was a flat from who knows when. But I put that around the handlebars before I put the mount on for a couple reasons. One, I didn't want to scratch the hell out of my handlebars, just in case it didn't work or I figured out a different way of doing it that I liked better. But it also dampened some of the vibrations that will come from there. So I would recommend doing that. You can use an old tube if you have one, grip tape, electrical tape, really anything that would fit in there and dampen some of those vibrations and protect your bars. So good luck. I really hope that you found this useful and informative. And stay tuned because I'm going to be posting more of these videos shortly. Keep on scrambling.